Hi, this is Sonia with Artist Solutions, and today I want to show you how I made some of these buttons. And each one of them have they've been printed on this recycled Amazon packaging. I just basically did some stamping on both sides and cut them out with the circle punch and the scallop punch. And I added some glossy accents on some of them. And these are great embellishments for your journals, scrapbooks, cards, tags, whatever you're making. And some of them, I kind of got the idea from Louise Heinzel. One of her videos, she made some of these buttons similar to this, but I decided to take it a step farther. And I added some little a jump ring, and you can just add some jewelry pieces to it and stuff like that. And basically what I did with these, some of them have glossy accents on them, and then others have the embossing enamel from Tim Holtz. That's what some of these colorful ones are. Now the big ones, I didn't add a jump ring to them. You could still do that, but I chose not to on this particular thing. But what I did do was I took some clusters and I added some of these on there. Like here's one of them, but I didn't add any enamel, embossing enamel, or any glossy accents. But I did go ahead and add the little jump ring on here. So you can add like a little dangle or something to it. So you can add this to your journal, you know, have it kind of going this way or this way, however you want to do it. And I just made a few of these little embellishments, or I guess clusters, that have the jump ring on them. So here's what these look like. And each one of these clusters have it on there. It's just to kind of show you what you can do with it. There's so many options, you know. These look really good on your rustic looking journals and vintage Victorian. So what I did do was I added one to a page in a book in one of my journals. And so I just added one of these little clusters on here, you know, similar to one of these. And I added this, you can see the jump ring right there. And then I just added a piece of this eyelash trim, and then I took one of these little embellishments and connected it to that eyelet. So you can see that's how they're connected. And they look really good in the journal, you know. And then I just took another one of these plain ones, little buttons, and then added it on here. And I also kept the negatives of the holes that I punched from the bag, the Amazon packaging. When I punched these out, I liked how they had the negatives from the circles that were punched out. And I just kept it, and then I just made like a little pocket out of it. I stitched it onto some vellum, and then voila, there you go. And made like a little pocket, and then, but that's how you can use it. So let me go ahead and show you guys how I made all these. Okay, so what you're going to need is basically either you can use some designer paper that's already got like a print on it, or you could use maybe book pages, or what I'm going to use is I have an Amazon package, and basically all I'm going to do is I'm using it, and I'm just going to use a stamp. It's a script stamp, and you can use any type of pattern you want on here for your buttons, and mine's going to be script. And then you're going to need a hole punch. You're going to need a punch for your buttons, or circles or whatever you want. And I'm just going to, instead of these just only being buttons, I'm going to take it an extra step and I'm going to add on some jump rings because I want to be able to connect something to it and make like a cluster with other embellishments attached to it. So and when I do that, I'm going to attach the jump ring using some wax thread. And you could probably use, I don't know what else you could use, that's strong enough but thin enough to fit through the holes. And oh, and you're also going to need some Glossy Accents. You could probably use Glossy Accents or perhaps maybe even some Nouveau drops, but I'm just going to stick with the Glossy Accents because you can see the pattern through the paper. So let's go ahead and get started. All I'm going to do is this right here, the Amazon packaging. It's already pretty thick, and there's also some little inside the pack. It's like double wall, and there's some thick stuff, little like circles inside of here, but that's fine. I'm just going to keep them in there. So I'm just going to randomly stamp on here. Let me ink this pad up really well. And you don't have to put it in any specific pattern, like you can just literally just stamp on it. And it doesn't matter what direction you turn it. You can turn it this way or that way. And if your ink isn't showing up well, or if your pattern, your print isn't showing up well, maybe you may have to get another stamp. And if that may be the case in this situation right here, because this stamp isn't really necessarily showing up really well. You could also emboss it so that that would show up even better, but we'll see. I don't know. Let me try another stamp. I'm just going to use the stamp from the Professor too, and just use it to kind of create my pattern. Let me get my stamping block. It's still not very pronounced. I may emboss that just to see if it'll pick up. Okay, now it's starting to show a little bit better. Let me try this one again. Just keep playing around until you get it to your satisfaction. Okay, and the two ink pads that I was using was the Ranger Archival Ink, Jet Black, and then I was also using Pigment Ink, Black Tie. But this is the preferred choice, but both work. Okay, so I got both of them. Let me just back up just a little tiny bit. Okay, I stamped both sides. You can see that or not too well. But I really like this side better because it picked up the images a lot more. So basically all we're going to do, I have this little circle punch. It's like a scallop punch. And you can just use a complete circle punch if you want. Or you can just use a scallop punch. And I'm going to be making some different shapes. Or different size shapes. Because I want to have varying, what do you call it? Circles or holes. So, this is, I think this is 1-inch scallop. Yeah, I have a 1-inch scallop, and then I have like a, it's like a 1.5-inch circle punch. So, I'm going to go ahead and get my little scallops in first. And, basically, you can go ahead and cut this to where you can handle your paper pretty well. So, okay, I'm just going to try to get this in here and line it up where I see my text, or just some text, you know, and just punch it out. And of course, you know, you're going to have, it's on both sides, and that's what I like. And I'm just going to make a whole bunch of these. And I'm going to be gluing them together. And you probably say, well, if you're going to be gluing them together, then what's the point in stamping on both sides? Well, I wasn't sure which print was going to turn out better than the other. So I'm just going through making a bunch of these. So basically, let me just cut that down. I'm going to keep these because I'll probably add these to a journal. So the whole point, or the goal of what I'm trying to do, is I'm going to line these up, and I'm going to take my hole punch. Let me just line a few of them up together. And this is going to be before I glue them together, so just let me line these up first and get a few of them in a row. Now, if you have just a standard hole paper punch, then I would only just, you know, put just maybe a few of them together. But I've got this crocodile, and we all know they can punch holes through thick materials. So, and I'm going to use the smallest, the little small hole. And I'm going to make like buttonholes. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. It's not necessarily going to be perfect, but I'm just eyeballing it to try to get it centered as best I can. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do with all of these. Is we're just going to line it up and cut some holes in them. And then we're going to be adding the string and the glossy accents to it. So let me just go ahead and get this last little bit right here. And try to line these up to where they are centered. And we'll go ahead and punch some holes in them. There's one. And there's the other one. Okay. So now what we're going to do with this is we're going to spread these out. And what I'll probably do, the ones that I punch together, try to keep them together, because your holes may be off just a little bit if you don't. So we're going to go ahead and take our thread. Yeah, you can distress these if you want to, but I'm not going to at the moment. Well, actually what I will do is take an ink pen a black pen. And for the surface that will show, I will go ahead and take a pen and kind of go around the circle of where the kind of go around this circle of the side of the face, the side that's going to show. So you don't have to do all of them, just the side that's going to show. And there's a method behind this. It's just so that it's more pronounced. Once you put your glossy accents on, it'll really stand out, and I like that. And it's providing a shadow. And if you had a magic marker or something, a Sharpie, you could also go around it with that too, instead of using an ink pen, just whichever your preference is. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our wax paper, and you can use whatever color you want. And I'm just going to use some black since I've already got some loose one here. And then I'm going to thread my needle. And this is the same kind that I use with my journals, my junk journals. So, but you can use a thicker needle, whichever size you need to hook these. Yeah, you may need one of the curled, I forgot what they're called, but those little curled needles. This would probably work best with this hook, since you have such a small space that you're going to be wiring this through. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and add on some string. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and loop. Hold on. We're not really sewing, but we're just kind of lining these. I can just use one piece of string. I don't really need two. So similar to how you do your journals, you have that extra. You have this extra little piece of hoop, piece of string hanging here, but the bulk of it is just like a single string. So we're just going to go ahead and feed it through here. Oops. Through the one side. And then we're going to come back in. So it's going in, and then you're going to come back through from the bottom, you know, like normal. And then we're going to go back down in here again. And we've got our little hoop. And then we're going to grab a jump ring. Now the jump ring is going to hang just a little tiny bit. So we're going to come back through the front. And then we're going to add on our jump ring. And it's going to be connected right here in the front where something can dangle. And we're just going to go on back down in here. And as you can see, we've just hooped it on. And then we're just going to want to make sure it's secure in here. We're going to go back through here again. Hold on. And you can use a regular needle for this. It doesn't have to necessarily be the hoop, because the regular one will still work. I'm just going to go back down through here again. And you're just going to make sure that your hoop is in the middle where you want it at. So where it's still it's kind of loose, but not too much. But it's centered. And then we're going to come back through this one right over here. And then we're going to tie it off. And I'm just going to take the side that doesn't have the needle on it and just kind of tie it off. I'm just going to tie, and then I'm going to feed it through the back in that same hole. And then I'm going to tie it off in the back. Well, I'm going to feed this one back around. I don't know how to do that. Let me try it again. Put that back through there. Alright, so I'm going to tie these back here. And I'm going to go ahead and take the needle off. And then just tie these. And I'm going to tie it one more time just to make sure it's secure. And then I will let it go. Okay, and then I can cut it off. You don't need string that long. This was my first time making this, so that's why I made it that size. Alright, so now we've got our first one. Now we're going to glue it. We're going to glue this to this, so whichever side you want it to go on, whichever side you want to show, is fine. So we're just going to glue. You could actually use Glossy Accents to glue it together, but I'm just going to use some regular glue for right now. Just some regular Elmer's. We're going to try to line our holes up. And this isn't too thick, but it's just enough to where you can still hang something on here, you know. And then we're going to add some glossy accents to it. So let me find a page or paper that I can set this on. But before I do that, I want to distress the outer edges with black. I'm going to distress both sides because, like I said, you can glue this to a cluster, or you can add it as like a jewelry piece. Well, not necessarily a jewelry piece, but an embellishment piece. Yeah. And so this side you don't really see anything. You don't have a embellishment, so we're just going to go back around it, around that circle, in case it's seen. And what I'll do, I'm going to have two different styles of small and two different styles of big. One style will be flat with some glossy accents on only one side, and then another style is going to have glossy accents on both sides, so that way it can dangle, you know, and show on both sides. So, but you want to make sure that when you glued it together that it stayed together. You want to make sure your pages are going to stay glued together, because you don't want it to come apart. So make sure it's bonded really well. Because keep in mind, this paper from Amazon packaging is double-sided, so I want to make sure that they're all staying together. Because when we cut it with the hole punch, it kind of separated it a little bit. So just making sure that it's going to stay intact. And you want to also make sure that your jewelry piece is up and not laying down, because if it's laying down and you put your glossy accents on it, it may get stuck. So you want to make sure that it's sticking up or out. Then you put your glossy accents on. So let me just go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. Move this out the way. So we're just going to go ahead and put the glossy accents on here. And this is going to make it pretty sturdy too. Alright, and then you see your, still sticking up. So we're just going to let that dry. If you get glossy accents on the side, try to, or on the paper, just pick it up and then set it somewhere where it's not going to get stuck to that same spot. Alright, so let's make some more of these in batch. So I'm just going to put it on fast pace, and then I'm just going to let you watch as I do this. And then here are the different color ones. The reason why I use that enamel is because you can still see the text through the colors. And I really like that aspect of it. So, and then I went on ahead and, you know, added these to some clusters, the different sizes. But I decided not to add the glossy accents or anything on these because I just, to me they look better in their natural, like, dull finish for these anyway. I mean, you could still do that later on your own. Like, you could still go in later as you're creating something and then add that on there. And it would look good, but I just decided not to put it on there. But, now some of these I didn't add, let's see, what colors did I do? Some of these buttons, I didn't add the little clips on there. I just left them as is, little flat buttons. But when I let them dry, some of the glossy accents got stuck to the surface of the paper that I stuck it to. So when you're drying it, take note, make sure the surface that you lay them on is probably like parchment paper or something that doesn't stick. That's where I messed up at. So, but these would look good like in your journals or just wherever you want to put them. They would look good on cards, journals, scrapbooks. Embellish some jewelry if you wanted to. So like if you made these two-sided, you could add glossy accents on this side too. Now that this side's dry. And then, or it doesn't have to be glossy accents, you could add like enamel or some type of embossing to give it color, and then it could just kind of dangle on both sides. Well, maybe not these ones, but the ones that do have the one that does have a clip on it, you know. That way it would be two-sided. It would show on this side and it would also show on this side. I just didn't bother putting it on this side. But you could, so that when it hangs, you know, it would be a gem. So I may go back and do that later, I don't know. But as for now, this is what that looks like. And if you remember, I did keep the negatives. And I want to show you what I did. Let me slide these out of the way. Or what you can do to reuse this. So here's that journal page where I added one of these on here. I connected I had one of these little buttons on here, one of the dry ones, one of the clusters, and I decided to add on, so there's a jump ring right there, and so I added another jump ring, and I added this eyelash trim, and then I added this little sign, it's like an embellishment or whatever. So what I'm going to do with this page to just kind of add even more detail is I'm just going to cut. Let me see what size this is. So I'm just going to cut this in the middle. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm kind of straighten this edge up a little bit. And you can use either side. And I'm going to want it to fit right here. So I've got a piece of glassine envelope. Now the envelope is a little bit big, so I'm just going to have to take this flap off of it. Let me get my paper trimmer. So I'm just going to take this flap off. I'm just going to leave it turned like that, and I'm just going to line it up and just go straight across. And you can still use this on something too. And then I'm just going to cut this down. Let's see, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. So it's about this size. First of all, this is roughly 4 3/4 of an inch, so maybe 5 inches. So let's cut this down to 5 inches and try to straighten it out. Okay, and then this will go here. So I think it's kind of tall, and I don't want it that tall. So I'm just going to take a little bit more off. Let's see, this is roughly 2.5 inches. So I'll put this down to about 3 inches. Well, 3¼ inches, because we want to have a little bit of wiggle room. So yeah, I like that. And then I'm just going to get my circle punch. Well, if I can figure out which side is the side that opens up. Let me get my circle punch. And I'm going to create like a little hole right there, or a little, not really a hole, but an area where you know that it's the envelope. Well, if I can get it to do right. Let me get my small scissors. It didn't cut completely, so I'm just going to complete it manually. Okay, and then you can distress it if you like. I think I will. I add just a little bit of this brown distress oxide ink. Not oxide, but just brown distress ink on here. This isn't how you distress stuff, obviously, but this is a quick and easy way for me to do it by cheating. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up, this little tab right here, because I'm going to stitch this on. So I'm going to open this little flap. And then I'm going to stitch this one here. And then I'm going to stitch this back together again. So you might say, well, you can see that circle around it, but that's okay, because it'll still work out. Let me show you. Okay, so here's the envelope. And now you can dazzle it up, and you can add it to your journal, which I'm getting ready to do. And then, if you really wanted to have fun, you could add one of these on here, which I think I'm not going to do that. I'm going to add, I don't know. It's like I don't want to use it on this journal, but well, you know what, that's what it's for. You could still put something here, but I don't know if I want to use my buttons in that spot. I think I want to use my buttons on something else. Either way, you can just put your little tag down in there or something and embellish it. But that's pretty much it, guys. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos and my blogs and my social media sites. And as always, I thank you guys so much for watching.